Awesome. We are recording and we are live. All right. So how far of a drive is it from where you are to your work, Emily and Molly?
Like 20 minutes for both of us about?
Okay, that's not bad.
No, not bad.
It's a nice middle area for the two of us.
And you're both back, you said?
Yes, we started, so my school, we did a phased opening. So we took A to J some days, K to Z some days, and did a half day each time. So tomorrow is our first full day with all of the kids in there. So
Okay.
yes.
Wow. The whole, like you're full back?
Yes. So my whole school is every fourth grade and below, like kids come all day, every day from 8-ish to 3-ish. And so we're all in, but I am doing half a remote classroom and half an in-person classroom just as like the one remote team in my school. And so I'll teach reading in the morning and then I'll be with my in-person kiddos in the afternoon.
Gotcha. Hey, Carrie, how are you? Jump in. Oh, the AirPods.
Well, headphones.
Okay.
I have a teenager down here. We're having some drama in the house. So, I said, why don't you separate from your sister and come downstairs with me? So
How'd that work out?
far, so good.
Okay, good.
I just need to let go of mommy land for a little bit. And yes, I'm happy I'm here.
Yes, well, I think not that we want to be talking about the struggles at Carrie's house, but I think as we kick off, that's really kind of what we're talking about today is bringing everybody back to school or putting us in situations where it's not always conducive. So we are going to kick off. I want to thank Gaggle. I spoke with them this week again. They're extremely happy to be contributing to all that we're doing and all the work that the educators are doing across the country. And they reached out today and they're actually putting a few things together and writing some things about the work that we're doing. So I want to thank you to Gaggle, and you see Sari has Bunsey up there, our Bunsey team. I was actually using Bunsey right before I jumped on here today. I'm going to be using that for the keynote that I'm doing for the KSU event I was sharing today. So I was actually working on it when Ariel jumped on and I wasn't even paying attention. And she's like, hey. So as we jump off, and as Carrie was saying, sometimes people just need a break. And when Ariel jumped on and scared me a little bit, we were talking about like the first week everybody was back and it's like, hey, it's so nice to see everybody. It's first time since March and like this is so great. The second week it's like, okay, we're still here, we still have masks, I still have to play with the singular thing at recess by myself with some friends close, but I don't want to throw it to them and they can catch me. And as we come back for the third week, the air's starting to get let out of the balloon a little bit. And Ariel, you were talking and had a little bit of frustration and why was that?
It's so funny that you said, did you say honeymoon here or were we talking about that before?
I talked to like the honeymoon was over, not other ways using honeymoon.
I was very fortunate. My students started really happy. I mean, they're still very happy, but that first week was like a dream. They were happy to be back. Masks were on all day. They were loving learning. Now they're kids again. And that's just the way that they are. They're happy to be with their friends. And like you said, with the recess bag, they can't share toys and it's starting to get to them. Their ears have been hurting right behind where the loops are. That's been a common complaint in the classroom. Like, my ears are hurting. Can I take a mask break? The weather's changing. So now mask breaks are maybe not as enjoyable because it's getting cold. So when we go out, they're like, okay, I don't really want to be out anymore because I'm cold, but I want to be out because I want a break from my mask. So it's starting to feel like school again. So it's just adjusting and finding that balance of our new COVID precaution life, but also going back to the way that things were in a way. And we started curriculum this week and it's been an adjustment for us and for the kids. I think the kids more than us. I mean, they haven't been in school for 6 months. And like Emily was saying before we started recording, we're face-to-face live 5 days a week, no virtual students in my class. So school is as normal as it can feel with all of the new precautions. So they're back to regular learning again. And it went quick. We went from 1 week of let's just see how it goes to now we're right back to regular school.
So you haven't been back, and I know you're in a new grade,
Mhm.
and you haven't, students weren't back since the middle of March. What is one thing that you came into this year expecting that just didn't happen? Like, what are some things that kind of surprised you?
I think for me, I was expecting a little bit more negativity from the students, but they were
Okay.
very positive starting the year. And that was a great adjustment for me and a great transition for them, that we had no behavior or discipline problems with mask wearing, which I wasn't really sure. I called parents before the beginning of the school year just to ask what the students' comfortability was with wearing masks, just seeing how they were. And that was no issue at all. So I was very fortunate that I started the school year strong with the mask wearing, and students know I taught them a few sign language movements, and just teaching them how to use their hands and just use their eyes to express when they need to use the bathroom, and just being able to raise their hand quietly because I can't hear them under the mask. So that was a great adjustment for me. But
Awesome.
I'm happy with how the beginning of the school year turned out, because we are working through the challenges that we had, but it's different. I mean, I'm going into week 3. This is definitely a different attitude than I had going into week 1. I'm back to teaching now.
Well,
It's
good.
real life again.
Yeah. So you said back to teaching. Emily and Molly, you a year ago were doing student teaching, and you were doing it in Springfield, I think, right? Did you do it in Springfield or any of the surrounding towns? Where'd you
Both
do
of
it?
us were actually in Agawam, Mass.
Agawam. Okay.
Different
So,
elementary schools, but we were both in Agawam.
so you did your student teaching. Like, this is going to be great. I'm going to have my own classroom in September, and you go back this week, and it's a little different because you didn't do your student teaching while we were out in COVID. So this is very, very different. So tell us about your first week. What was it like? And then the rest of us kind of jump in to kind of help you out. Like, this is different.
Yeah, I mean, for our first week, we were back, but it was half days. So we only had half the students at a time. And I think one thing that I really noticed that is super different from when I was student teaching is just all these rules. Like, it's just kind of sad. Like, when we're doing a read aloud, like, we can't all sit on the carpet together and like show the pictures. I feel like I'm screaming, trying to have everyone hear the words that I'm trying to read, and walking around doing the picture. And they want to get out of their seats so badly. And I think it's just I'm trying to figure out how to make sure that they're having fun and like making friends when they can't stand next to each other. So that's something that is like bizarre, and it just feels so weird that they can't be near each other and we all can't be near each other. So that's definitely an adjustment.
And you have fourth grade, you said?
I'm third grade.
Third grade. Oh, both of you are third grade, right? Molly, you moved.
Mhm.
How was your first week, Molly?
It was honestly really good. So we are full remote until October. So in October, they'll be coming in on A week, B week. So we're moving towards hybrid, but the town voted to start completely remote. So I go into my classroom and I have everything set up, but I teach from my classroom remotely to 15 students. And the first day was like better than I expected. I was like, okay, this isn't so bad.
15 both days, or that's your whole class?
15 students on the computer, and then when they come in, it'll be 8 and 7.
Okay.
Yes. So, and then my computer broke a little bit, which was a rough challenge to deal with on my second day ever of
What does a
teaching.
little bit of a broken computer look like? Like 5 keys fell off? Like, what does that mean?
Like, the connection was
Oh, okay.
broken basically, and I would lag, and I would have to run and get the Paris computer and like be like, hang on, I'm turning my computer back on. And that went on for 2 days, and it was really difficult.
Taught from her cell phone one day too.
Yeah, I
So-
literally
So they didn't.
Google Meet on my phone, and I was talking, but I can't see their faces on Google Meet. So I'd be like, okay, ask a question. I'd be like, type me in the chat if you want to answer. And then I'd have to wait for them to type me, and then be like, okay, what do you want to share?
That wasn't part of your student teaching? You didn't do that last year?
Not at all. But
So, Melissa, I know you're full remote or doing a Learning Academy online. What would you help Molly with? Because she's doing poor Google Meets on her phone.
We just laugh it off. Every catastrophe that happens, it's not the end of the world. You know how many times I have laughed and the parents have laughed right along with me and said, I'm so glad you're so patient, because there's nothing you can do. I mean, you can only control your reaction to the event. And those events happen, and it's just out of our control. So just laugh it off.
Yeah.
And
Luckily, I did get a new computer, so it's been better. But
Good.
there will still, of course, be scenarios like that all year.
Awesome. Oh, so sorry, Sarah, Carrie, and Yuritsa, how was your week this week, and how's it been being back? What are some things you reflected on since the beginning of the year?
It's been amazing, and I have to tell you, I'm loving the conversation that we're having right now because Melissa, the humor that you bring to the table, right, is so important during this time for us to be able to just laugh at it and just keep on moving through. And I think that for us, every day is better. And I think that if we look at everything as an opportunity to learn and grow, and we have those open conversations with our families, I've noticed that when we bring them into the conversations and we talk to parents about just the fact that, listen, we're going to hit bumps, communicate with us, talk to us, we'll figure out how to make it better. And I have to tell you, the next day is better. And then we hit another bump and then we grow and we learn from that. But, I was listening to a podcast this morning. George Kiros is one of his newest ones, and he said that 2020 is the year of the learner. And I think that for all of us, because we are all learning so much right now.
And we're all first-year teachers, essentially.
Yeah.
So am I in week 3? I think I just ended week 3, and I just
Is that a bad thing that you're already it's not like week 27, like this is week 3. And I think your hesitation there kind of told us why we need to just kind of refocus a bit and be like, how are we doing here?
Well, no, and it wasn't, I'm not usually I'm not a counter. I don't count down the end of the year. I don't count up to it. I'm not a counter, but I was just trying to reflect on how far away I am from the beginning. Because I think I shared off camera with you guys, but I don't know if it ever made it on camera about just how hard the first week was for me. I mean, when I look back at it now, it was a depression I'd never experienced because the only way I could relate it to any experience was it was like my best friend had died because I loved teaching that much. And it was just so different going into that first week. It was nothing like I remembered why I loved teaching. And then, each day got a little bit better. The more I talked to people and shared how I was feeling, that was a huge thing for me because I'm also a really private person. And I'm also try to be a little tougher than I should sometimes. So I will say opening up and sharing those feelings with others was a huge help, because knowing when you need to share those feelings with people when you're feeling things during this experience was a huge step forward for me, and it made a big difference. And then each day got better. So 3 weeks in, school is starting to feel, like Ariel said, a little bit more normal. I do see the kids, I have middle schoolers, so they're a little bit more restrained in their desire to be on the carpet together and things like that. But then I do have to remind them to step away, to step apart and things like that. So school really is becoming school. But I'm happy that initial feeling that I had of being so mournful of wanting school to be back the way it was, is that being with the kids really is so special, whether it's on the camera or in person. There is that part of why we all love to teach. There still is that opportunity to connect with them, and just each day just gets a little bit better. I don't know if I love the new normal. I don't want to say that, but it does feel more doable, right? And then we can also start to get past some of the academics and really realize that why we love to teach, that those reasons start to show up again, I think, once I get past the realness of this new world, right?
Yeah. And Yuritsa, I know just from, obviously just kind of meeting you with the Walking Ed virtually and then getting a chance to see the amazing things you're doing. And, even before we came on, you had the Flipgrid tent behind you. And I know you do a lot of work with Flipgrid team, and you do a lot of interactive work that must be incredibly exciting to do in class. And when this is over, I'd love to see you teach. But this has got to be restraining to you as someone who is so hands-on. And how would you support teachers? And, Emily was just talking about, circle time or reading time. What are some ways you have been impacted by this because of the hands-on nature of the work that you do? And what are some ways that those of us who are, you can help us out? What would you do, or what are you doing?
So this is our first week back. The The week was spent, half of the week was spent preparing for next week, because at first we thought that our students would begin with us face to face on Monday. If you guys have been watching the news, New York decided on Thursday that we're not going to open up at all. So now, as of October 1st, students are going to come in face to face. So now everything is virtual until October 1st. Teachers were just notified Thursday morning. So you can imagine.
Like 3 days ago?
Yeah. So you can
Awesome.
imagine.
That's not stressful.
Right. We spent half of the week preparing for students to be face to face with us next week. But what I would say is, so I dedicated this week to just SEL. So what I did was I designed half of my class. I created a SEL center. And what I did was I printed out, I focused on the 5 competencies of SEL, and I printed out my Bitmoji. And you know, if you use the computer, if you have that add-on, you could actually type in what you want your Bitmoji to say. So I put it as social awareness, self-awareness. I printed it out, and the hopes is that even if I can't be with my students, that'll be my background. So I designed it first for my students to be there with me face to face. And then I realized, you know what, Yaritza, they're going to need it more than you need it. Usually I do the 5 competencies almost like a reminder to myself. But then I realized, if this is confusing for teachers, just imagine students who are now being told as well, you can't come back to school. And like I mentioned to
Right.
you guys before, school is like a home for my students. So now you're basically saying you can't come home. So I mentioned to you guys also about our pantry. And what our school did was they created a virtual pantry for our students. So it's almost like shopping online. And now the parents could come after school hours to come pick up whatever groceries the students actually created a list of. So what I would say is the best way to prepare it is by just going every day, day by day. What I've learned is preparing a month ahead or a few weeks ahead is just like, you shouldn't, because you never know what to expect. I'm so happy that I decided to focus on SEO for my first few weeks as opposed to content, because I probably would have been as upset as most teachers were in my school with, you know, you're expecting kids to be there and no one's going to be there next week. So now everything has to be put online. And I will also say, just ask kids how they're doing. I felt a little bit confused, but as if you follow me, then you notice like I turned it into a game. So I did like the whole
Yeah, I saw that. That was really cool.
musical tag I created for my students, but I felt like, wow, I'm seeing a lot of educators. We're upset. We don't know what to do. We need like to just have like some sort of happiness. And so I shared it with you guys, but then also that was my kids' assignment for Friday. So Friday, I literally did a pear deck that asked them about the favorite R&B song of the year. I picked 3 random songs, some songs, 2 of the songs I never heard of, but I was just like, the kids heard of it because it was top charts. So here's the assumption. It's culturally responsive teaching for you. And I used Peer Deck to basically get their attendance. And then after that, they had to do the musical tag. And what I realized was even kids who didn't want to show their face played the music in the background. So for me, it was, okay, we made that connection, because now I have to break it to you that you won't see me face to face on Monday, even though my first 2 messages to you and your parents were, I can't
We'll see you next week.
Monday, right? So now the next message is now, thanks so much for doing musical tag, but I won't see you till October 1st. But I created something so much fun, and it's dealing with comic books, and you get to create your own. And I'm just trying to show them how happy I am, even though inside I'm devastated. And so when Carrie spoke about, you know, her feelings, I'm just like, I'm upset because I know how much my students have been through. And you know, everybody teaches a different demographic of students. I know my students are going through it the hardest. You know, not putting aside anyone else's feelings, but my students are really going through it. They're in shelters. They're not eating as much as they should. Some of them don't know how to really comprehend what's going on around them. Some of them have lost family members.
Right.
I just got a message the other day, one of my students are incarcerated. So could you imagine that I'm getting all of this news, and yet I have to still now prepare for all virtual learning, even though you guys told me I was going to start on Monday face to face, and I've created everything for face to face. So I would just say, you know, take it day by day. And for the first time in 11 years, I'm saying have zero expectations. Because when you have zero expectations, you allow yourself to deal with things better than when you have a whole bunch of expectations. Like, I don't even know what our chancellor is going to say tomorrow. I may go in tomorrow and they may say, well, hey, we don't want the teachers to come in, because as of now, they want every teacher to come in, but they don't want the students in the building. And then
Yeah.
now we're subjected to like random testing and everything else in New York. So it's nuts out here.
I can imagine. And when you were like, I can't even imagine the news when they just sent that home, like, now you're not coming. And the kids were kind of disappointed, like you said. Emily and Molly, I'm sure, I mean, you entered, Springfield College 4 years ago with the dream of getting out in 4 years, having your own class. You had all of this like excitement, and here we go. You start in this capacity. What's something that you're missing and you're kind of disappointed, and would love to hear our team how we can kind of support that? Because for me, I'll say it's not just for new teachers. As an elementary teacher and then principal, even now in the central office, for those of you who followed me at the beginning of last year, I'm in classes every day, high fives, like, what's up, buddy? And I really miss that. Like, it's really hard for me. And you essentially a year ago were like, oh, when I have my class, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have this. What's something that you miss right now? Because we're going to try to help you out as you enter that next week.
I think one thing would be like greeting the students. I loved last year we would stand outside and like they'd get to pick a greeting, and it was just a nice way to start the day and like have a little interaction with every single one of the students. And then also being able to go to desks and like, so being completely virtual, if one student is struggling with their work, like I can't privately video chat them during my Google Meet to be like, oh, what do you need help with? And the kids are shy to raise their hand in front of everybody and say what they're struggling with. And I would be the same way. I don't blame them at all. But when you're in a classroom and everyone's doing a worksheet and you're walking around, you can squat down at someone's desk and be like, what can I help you with? What are you stuck on? And I think that's really hard for the students and for us. But one thing that I have reflected on a bit is that I think that we are so lucky that we did our student teaching last year and got that experience of what a normal real classroom would look like, and then have a positive attitude going into this. I think I would have been more upset if I was student teaching this year and then you go in blind to what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. So little silver linings are important, I think.
Absolutely. And Emily, what are you missing when you imagined having your first classroom?
I am definitely missing having just one cohesive class. So I have 23 students on Zoom, and then I have 12 in person. And I feel like we're just so separate, and like I'm planning the same thing, but it's just kind of tough. Like, it's very separated. I tried to bring my Zoom kids in to meet the in-person, and we did a little thing, and we've tried to kind of intertwine the Zooms in all of it. But I feel like I feel like I'm in two different worlds almost. Like, and I feel like that aspect of teaching just feels like I'm very separated. I don't really know how to properly describe that, but it just feels like I'm teaching two completely separate. And I guess that's how high school teachers might feel, because they have all these different classes, but I'm used to just having my one room with my one kids. But something else is like groupings. Like, I loved, like, we would move around the tables and like put the desks in all different areas. Like, you would partner work with this, and like you would both all draw on the poster at the same time. Like, I loved like purposeful grouping, and that was something I used in my lessons a ton. In student teaching, I'm not really sure how to do that in a class, because they're in their own desks and we don't have computers in school right now for those kiddos. Because I've heard things like you could do a group PowerPoint and like use headphones and things, and I know that that's a method, but we don't have that at the moment. So that's like, I have no idea how to get these kids talking and like work together. So that's something I'm struggling with a little bit. But
yeah, so I think those are great, and I want to turn it over to the team. I heard struggling with grouping, and I know we have some hybrid folks, but I know now Yuritsa and Melissa, you do online work. So how do you do grouping in that, and then having those partnerships and opportunities for students to collaborate more than just online. So I'd love to hear our team's thoughts on that, not just for Melissa and Emily, but that everybody's kind of going through that, veteran or new teacher.
So I've and this probably sounds a little bit weird. I've used Peer Deck, and I created my slides. It's like everyone gets the same slide, but the kids who need the most help get the slides with the voiceover and the extra activities in it. And so, and what I've done is like, it's the same kind of, I create the same kind of Google slideshow, right? But the kids that I know, you may need me to like really answer certain questions. I've done a voiceover on those specific slides where it's just like me explaining it to a T, to the point where you probably really wouldn't need me at the end of this slideshow. And then it was almost like after this, for the students who I know work very well independently, I would say like, if you're done and you still have 30 minutes left, do this Flipgrid activity. And it's usually something fun, but then I know, okay, you finished this with the 30 minutes left. And that was my way of grouping kids. And I would just send the two different codes. So I know what kids were doing what, but also when I go online and I'm helping out that one group and I realize, okay, you guys are really still struggling, even though I decided to do the voiceover, let's change this back to the student-centered mode. And now I'm helping you guys out. And those kids who are usually faster and finishing, they can still keep going on. They could do it on their own. So I've learned how to group using Peer Deck, and then especially if you use the Peer Deck Turbo, or and it usually just Power Up, and it allows you to use videos on your slides even if you're not doing like the teacher centered. It really helps a lot for your students. So I've done it that way. Ideally, I don't usually group like that, but this week it really helped, especially with me having to do it like on the fly and not knowing that I wouldn't be able to see my students. So that worked.
Well, I was thinking for Molly, you said how you had missed like the greetings at the beginning of the day. And I know that for some of my students, at least in the spring, we would have like special hand gestures and things like that on Zoom. Like if somebody answered something really, we'd be like, you're on fire, or we would find a different way to like, fist bump in the camera. I mean, even my students still come in and there's a couple of them that we have different things that we do that are distance, but like one of my students, we have like a shocker, we shock, when we fist bump from a distance. So there's fun little ways that you can add, little things like that. And there was something else you said, and I had an idea for you. Oh, I know for me, checking in with my students is also really important. I know Google Forms, kind of an SEL assessment, or taking time, giving yourself permission to give yourself a block of time to maybe schedule blocks with your students and just meet with them, and you said you had a para. If the para can do a breakout or can have it be on a different Google Meet, just to, you could rotate if I know that was a technology, you said you borrowed the technology from a para, but if you had access to another adult that was in your room that knew the students, you could also use them too. So I think those are, some interesting ways that you could check in with students too, because you're right, it is important to get to check in with them.
Ariel, how are you doing that with your fourth graders?
So it's funny that you said that, Carrie, about socially distanced greetings and different ways that you can greet your students. I also made my Bitmoji and I put it in the front of the room. And I'm really missing jobs this year. I'm missing my students having jobs because young students really like having ownership and accountability in the classroom. So we're finding different ways for students to feel like they are part of the classroom leadership community. So we assign every student to be a classroom greeter every day. And they have to be socially distanced, but they stand at the door and they stay with me and they help me greet the other students, whoever comes in first. And we have a very long beginning of the morning. The kids start coming in at 9. The bell doesn't ring till 9:30. So we have a half hour for greeting time, which is wonderful. And instead of doing just routine morning work, I'd rather spend that time walking around and conferencing with the students, because that's the perfect opportunity to start those really small conversations. So Molly, if you're not going in person until October, you can definitely start using those breakout rooms or Google Forms. But once you get back to school, it's just really important to remember to keep with that consistency, because you can fall into the habit sometimes, like I know I do, wanting to just get started as soon as the bell rings. But I'm really trying hard, and having a student be that job reminds me that our students need a check-in in the morning. And sometimes it can be as simple as just, hey, how are you? How was your weekend? Sometimes this past week, it's taken me like 45 minutes to get started, but that's okay, because like Yuritsa said, it's really important. We need to be focusing on what the kids need day by day. And I'm planning one day at a time. I used to be a 2-week planner. It was just the way that I was just trained, planned 2 weeks out. I can't do that this year, and that's okay. And just telling myself whatever I need to do to get through just one day at a time. But I think I lost track of your question, Matt. I answered.
No, I think you did great. We are talking about grouping. I'd love to hear Melissa, because you are all online. How are you grouping kids, or how are you greeting? How does that work for you?
Well, my kids have jobs. I have a greeter, which eventually is just all of us unmuting at the same time, saying good morning, family, and we do fist bump, we do fa la 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 la, we do air hugs, all that jazz. We have a joker at the end of the day. We have a DJ who gives us the song where we dance out every single day at the end. Mine is trying to get them so excited to be on Zoom that they don't want to get off. So we have done anything from scavenger hunts to snowball fights to mystery Zooms on Friday to stems once a week. So that magic that they would get in school is so important, because I want them to want to get on Zoom. I don't want them to wake up and say, oh, I got a Zoom.
Right.
And that's what I worry the most about, is that they are not loving school. It's not somewhat normal, even though we're completely not normal right now. But we have jobs, we have the greetings. We use the breakout rooms. We did the other day, we finished a chapter book, and then we're starting a new book. So I put them in breakout rooms to discuss what they predict about the book. And then they can talk about the weekend. And I think that's what they love the most, is that interaction time where I'm not there, but they're chit-chatting with their buddy. And then eventually I want to do breakout rooms with their common interests. So they can chit-chat about Minecraft, or they could talk about coding, or they could talk about anything they want. And I don't have to be in there 24/7, because that's what they miss when they come into the building and they get ready for the day, is chit-chatting with each other.
No, that's great. And I have two things, and I'm going to go up to you, sorry, in a minute, but I see Livia Chan with us. And as I've done the first 3 weeks, had somebody come over, but I don't just call you over without giving you the opt-out. But I know you wrote an awesome blog and had a podcast recently. I don't have the exact date, but it was about being intentionally thankful, and the power of really believing in yourself. And that's what we're really talking about tonight, is having that opportunity to know where we are and continue to believe in yourself. I'm gonna ask Sarah a question. I'm gonna get it one of these weeks. And the first try.
Like Larry, but Sarah.
I know, you can tell me 7 more times. But Livia, if you feel comfortable after like Larry, Sari, gives her an answer, just put it in the chat. I'd love to call you over and give a little snapshot of that blog and podcast that you did, because it was it really ties into what we were doing today.
I love that you pointed that out with Livia. She's a real impressive educator. She's a dynamite. And her podcast about relationships, I think, is so much of what we've been sharing, that we've been focusing on these first few weeks, right? Like, I mean, Eureka, you've been talking about, you're focusing on SEL, and I think that that's most important. For the remote learning, as you guys know, I'm first year virtual principal of a remote learning school. What does that even look like?
Right.
The primary teachers, when I walk in their room and I hear them singing from down the hall, and that energy is still there. And to Melissa's point, kids are waking up and they're excited to go into these Zooms. And, I think that they're mirroring a lot of the positives that they were doing within the classroom. They're starting with the greeting, they're doing the calendar, they're doing the counting, they're going to look out the window and looking at the weather and seeing what it's going to be like today. And they're still touching upon all of those important pieces that are, real. And the energy, I think, that she brings in this one in particular, I just can't even get enough of her. And the parents have been emailing nonstop saying, wow, her energy is contagious for the kids, and we're so grateful for what she's been bringing to the table, and she's really been making it come to life, and I think it's pretty incredible.
And I have a question for you, more of just my own like this week was weird for me because again, I try to go into classrooms and different things, but I haven't crossed the threshold yet of the room because I want to make sure people feel comfortable in the rooms. And one of the issues I had is, 6-foot guy at the door with a mask on staring into classrooms. So how have you handled that? Because how's that? Like that was hard for me this week. And I'll ask the teachers, how's it been for you with administrators, for those of you who are in school? So sorry, how are you?
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you were going to me.
yeah, Sarah, how are you handling that? Because you said you were going into rooms and it really sparked me.
Yeah, so we have a window in the door. I've been trying to make eye contact so I don't startle anybody. And it's really funny. I was talking earlier about changing and improving every single day. And I think that one of the things I am in the process of designing and I'm going to be printing is a Zoom in session, sign so we can hang it on the door so we know, because obviously what we've done, which is pretty incredible in my district, is we had an auxiliary building that was
Okay.
not being used. So all of the remote teachers, K through 12, were put into this building with me. So one of the things that I love is that real sense of being a team and collaborating and really being able to lean on each other who are in similar situations. So like I said, we've been learning and growing and making it better every day. So that's one of the pieces, because I'm learning them and they're learning me, and I don't want to startle either. But I kind of give them the eye, and the window has been perfect. So I think that our setup is conducive to me being able to walk in. But I'm also shared on all of their Google Classroom, so I can also just jump in like this in a Zoom and pop in and say hi, and they know to expect that at this point.
Awesome. How have others handled? And I know Yuritsa's not back and Melissa's not back, and Molly for that matter. How have either Emily, Ariel, Carrie handled administrators or other people coming in? Has it been weird? Has it freaked out kids? Like,
now they're on hold or any form of observation. So when an administrator comes in, it's just to provide support or encouragement. And I think that that's alleviated a little bit of the stress of like the why is an administrator coming into my room feeling. And it definitely opens up the door to asking for support more immediately rather than needing to be on stage and start teaching. And that was made very clear to us from the beginning that our administrators and supervisors want to be there to support, and they will be walking around. Like what Sari said, they might pop their head in and just say, is now an okay time? But we know that it's just from a support and encouragement standpoint, which has been really helpful, because there have been times that my administrators have been walking around and they come in and I'm like, oh, all's good. And they're like, oh, hi, everyone. And then they leave. And there's been times they go, all is good. And I have a question, because this
Right.
is still new. This is so new. And I feel very comfortable asking, and they feel very comfortable sharing. And it's been a really great relationship back and forth. But they are visible, and they are transparent, and they are around. And I really appreciate it, because we have so many questions, because like you said, we're first year teachers all over again. Some of us literally, and some of us not at all, but it's very new for all of us. So I appreciate when I do see someone, whether it is in person or even just sending an email like how's it going, because sometimes what I don't know. And sometimes I don't know that I need support until someone says, do you need something? And then I'm like, yeah, I do. So
Right.
it's been very helpful for me in the past couple of weeks as I transition.
And Emily, you're a new teacher, so that and as itself is kind of nerve-wracking when the principal comes in. And how's that going with being new and maybe being observed, not officially, but just having someone in your room?
Yeah, so we haven't been observed, and my principal hasn't come in during any of the teaching yet, just because we've barely had a full week. We had 4 half days. So I assume that will begin soon, but my principal is so nice, and I feel very comfortable asking her questions. She's very helpful. And we had 2 full weeks of PD, and she would be walking around to all of our classrooms where we're working together, and would come and sit with us for a little while and like help us talk through things. She's really great and very, very supportive. So I definitely feel very comfortable going to her with things that I need, which is great. I'm pretty lucky to have a very approachable principal.
Awesome. So as we approach 9:10, and I know Livia was gonna. Oh, she's ready. Awesome. So sorry, Sari, you're gonna just have to take the background off. We don't need Bunsey Dog. We gotta see your dog. Looks a lot like Gizmo, actually. So I'm gonna bring Livia on. We got Livia coming over. We got Sari's dog. It's all sorts of fun. So I'm gonna move you over right now. All right. So Livia's coming on. It's great to have you over. I've seen some of the work you've done, especially as part of the ambassador program with Teach Better. I've known that crew since it was the grid method, and met Ray years ago. So, and I read the work that you did this week about being intentional and being thankful and believing in ourselves, and that's what we were talking about this week. And when I saw you in the chat, I was like, oh, she's going to be this week's pullover. So I'd love for you to give us a little kind of the feedback, and some of our viewers and who will watch this week, some things to really help us get through the next week, because as we heard tonight, we're going day by day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're all in different situations, right? Like in where I am, the rates have been pretty good. So
And where are you?
I'm in British Columbia in Canada.
Okay.
So we're all pretty much face to face. And this was our very first week that we went back to school. So we've had 5 full days of school, and and I know different people in the States have been in school for maybe 4 or 5 weeks already. So I think, it's just so important to, I really believe in gratitude, and I've been called Gratitude Queen and the Reacher Outer. And I think, we have a big support system, especially if you're part of a PLN. We know so many people outside of our building. And to me, that's the people that have fueled me, meeting Sari and just different people. It's been amazing. And, I think every time we have an interaction with somebody, it's an opportunity to lift them up. And it's an opportunity to brighten their day. And it could be as simple as a smile, right? Your smile says so much. It could be as simple as a smile, a wave, and even a, hey, it's so good to see you. And, how good does that feel when somebody says that to you, right? And so, I'm not sure what you really want me to share here, but I know that when somebody touches my heart, I feel compelled to reach out to them to just say thank you. And it's by doing that little thing, I think it's not a little thing to them because of the feedback that I've received. And through doing that, I have met and I have become really good friends with so many people outside of my country. And I've been blessed every single day. I connect with different people every single day. And, lately I've been Zooming at 6 o'clock my time every morning to talk to my friends in the States, because that's the best time for them. And, I'm tired in the mornings, but
I can imagine.
Amazing.
No, I know, and I know you didn't know what you're talking or even coming over, so I truly appreciate it. But it really gives what's happening right now is we never know. And I'd love for you. You said you kind of were looking for a little more of a prompt here. I'd love for you to give Emily and Molly some ideas as new teachers and starting to build. You were talking about building your PLN or building your partnerships or reaching out as 2 new teachers. What advice would you give them to start building that gratitude to other educators who they don't know and maybe haven't seen without a mask on?
Well, are you 2 on Twitter? Yes. Oh, that's where I started. And it's just, when you read something or when you listen to a podcast or you read an article or you read a tweet, I just recommend that you respond. And I know it's a simple thing to just click the like and then that's it. Because, we don't always have time, but I really encourage you to click reply and to just reach out to say, just share something that resonated with you, or to tell them what you appreciated about what they shared. And when I've done that, it has led to so many amazing relationships. And, sometimes if I don't feel that comfortable to do something publicly, then I'll just DM somebody, because the message that they shared really touched my heart, and it has led to amazing relationships. And many times, I just think these are big people, like big names that I worship and adore and I'm total fans of, but, just kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, just going, they touched my heart that was like a gift to me, right? I've learned something new. I can take into my teaching. That is their gift to me. So I'm going to give them back a gift by just showing my appreciation. And it doesn't have to be much, right? It's just one little thing. And my world has changed from just doing that one thing, just by reaching out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. Sorry to startle you, but you never know what you're going to get here, and I appreciate it. I see my mom back on. I've been told that she's not allowed to be pulled over unannounced. So at some point, we're going to get her over on this side.
Awesome.
And
I just appreciate the opportunity. So
yeah, it was great. I threw your Twitter in the chat and read some of her work and really follow what Liv is doing, because it is about creating that positivity and then believing in yourself. So thank you. I hope you have a great night. We are going to wrap up in a minute, but I want to have our group each really share one more thing before we go out. I'd love for you to have that 1 minute, as we've talked about making it through the next week and we've talked about day to day. I'd love for you to share something you're excited about for next week, and really encouraging each of us, if nothing else, if no one watches the replay or nobody shows up, what are something that we're going to be excited about and proud to do next week? And just jump out and love to hear it.
I'll go. I love games, and I love anytime I get to play games with students in my classroom. I also, pre social distance teaching, I had a gamified classroom. So this year I'm excited to bring that back to my remote students as well as my in-person students, but also just continuing to push that envelope of how I can get students engaged in games while social distancing, but then also get my students, and I'd love to talk to you, Emily, a lot about stuff, but also getting my students that are at home engaged in the same games, but as technology wise, like get the same feel for it. And so that is what I'm really excited for going into this week.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing about it. What are other people excited about for this week?
We are having our first virtual open house on Tuesday night. And I think that creating these opportunities to have these face-to-face opportunities with parents and really build those relationships and really work with them in a way that we would face-to-face. I think it's important for us to mirror as many of those opportunities as possible. And I think that being virtual and being able to sort of slip it in at any time is something that we need to take advantage of, right? I mean, how easy is it just to jump on a Zoom for 20 minutes, half an hour, as opposed to coming down to the building and having to leave work early? So I do feel like these opportunities are something that we just need to take advantage of.
Awesome.
This week, and shout outs and putting them in a box and pulling them out, and there was just too many to read on Friday, which was such a nice, fulfilling feeling. So I'm looking forward to sharing more of those with my students. And this has been a slow build for us. The first time I introduced this with the book, we only had a couple get dropped in by the end of the day. By Friday, at the end of the day, the box was almost filled. So I'm really looking forward to sharing those. And now I think it's becoming a domino effect with the students. Once one shares, somebody else shares, and then someone else shares. And it really, really fills and warms my heart. They started being more literal, so-and-so helped me with this, but then they went more emotional. And it really solidifies how important family is and how important our community is. And I know Melissa used that word. She uses it a lot talking about her students. And I started shifting my vocabulary to calling my students in my classroom my family. And it's really made a difference. And I'm excited to see my family tomorrow. So
awesome.
I'll go.
You look so excited.
I'm on the spot. So I'm excited because my kiddos get to decide what our spirit week is going to be next week.
Ooh.
And so they're getting on Flipgrid and telling me what spirit days they want. And then they have to go on, collect the data and graph it. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited that I implemented this last week, but it's going to be continuous all year, but it's going to be Family Friday. So every Friday we're going to have lunch together.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was so much fun last week, and we just tell jokes and riddles and talk about the weekend. And
that sounds like a blast. Can't wait to see it. And I'm sure whatever it is, you're going to be blasting out on Twitter, and I can't wait to see the fun that's going to be for sure.
I guess I'll go.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Garitza, and then the girls were too slow on unmuting.
So I'm excited because I'll be rolling out the comic book activity that I share with everyone. So finally I've been trying to persuade people to let's do this across the United States. If every social studies and English teacher could get together and we could all implement at the same time, but obviously that didn't work out, right? So I'm going to actually do it with my students tomorrow, and I'm excited because they don't know that I'm doing this. They've only seen I made our borders superheroes, and everything that I do on Flipgrid is superhero content. So tomorrow I'm just so anxious to see just what their thoughts are, but even what historical characters they're gonna get superpowers to, because the idea tomorrow is just let's have this discussion, because I also want to see who do you deem as a superhero. It could even be their parents, you know? So I'm excited just about that. So regardless of whatever we're going through with this pandemic and them not being able to see me face to face, who are you going to give a superpower to? It may even just be yourself. You may see yourself as a superhero. So I'm excited, and I'll share with you
Awesome.
as always.
Nice. All right, Emily and Molly, you're unmuted and ready to go.
Something that I'm really excited about this week is my school decided collectively, since the students are coming in a month, that they're not sending the reading program home. So they're kind of giving teachers free reign to do whatever we want with reading for the first 3-4 weeks. So my co-teacher and I decided last week that we were going to do diversity week this week and do celebrating each other's differences. So we have a bunch of books lined up to read and a bunch of activities, like a read works on culture. We're going to read a book called Happy in Our Skin and Don't Touch My Hair. And I'm really excited to bring that into the classroom and have the creativity to do whatever we want with that. So it'll be really fun.
As for me, I'm so excited because tomorrow I get all of the kids all at once. So far I've only had half of the alphabet, so it's really going to be a big meet and greet. And I'm a little nervous because we are starting curriculum tomorrow based on just how my school's going. So we are starting curriculum and we're all meeting each other. So it's going to be a little stressful, but we're trying to work in some fun SEL classroom morning meeting things. So I've been brainstorming, and you are all giving me so many great ideas, and I can't wait to do all of those with the jobs and I love the dance out parties and having that be a job. And I'm just getting so many ideas about how to do that, but I'm just really excited to have all the kids together for the first time on Monday. So that will be a highlight for tomorrow morning.
No, and I think that's great. And to close with one of the things that I'm excited about for this week really encapsulates what we've been talking about, is finding a way to have those connections. We were talking about grouping. We were talking about greetings. We were talking about staying connected online with virtual fist bumps, or like you had said, the dancing in or spirit weeks, and making that part of our week, and making sure, and this conversation started at 8:10 when Ariel came on and was talking about wow, we're into week 3, and making that happen. For me, I cleared my mornings, because one of the things I really missed from the starting of the week, because I know with Sari, she and I at the district level or school level have been trying to do a lot of minutia and schedules and pickups and busing and different things. And I have missed just welcoming, as we talked about, seeing drop-off. And I have cleared my day every day till 9 o'clock so I could be at the drop-offs of at least 2 schools a day, because I could hit the high school and then I could do the elementary because of the schedule. I could do the middle and then walk up and find a way to hit 2 in the mornings just to help with the parking and help with the traffic. And just seeing kids coming in is something that I haven't had a chance yet this year, and doing it essentially for 11 years in a row, every day being outside, welcoming students in, and to have a year to not have that at all and not being in the classrooms has been very difficult. So it's definitely something that I'm going to set as a priority this week, is to leave my meetings open in the morning. If it needs to be done at 8:15, it can get done at 9. And unless it's something that's critical, I want to be there and be part of the welcome. And I think what we were talking about today is about those connections. And I hope that all of you who were able to join tonight, our team with us here today, got some ideas to keep those connections and keep us excited for tomorrow, because we were talking about just being day to day, and we're going to get through Monday and we're going to have a great day, and we're going to come back on Tuesday and do the same thing. And talking about coming back, we'll see you back in a week. and I'm going to be sending out the live recording very soon. And just thank you for all the support. Thank you for Live tonight. We've had, Christine's on here, who was a drop-in, Chris, and having people stop in each and every week to add their voice has been great for us and great for our new folks. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Fire. Was that the fire?
No.
All right. Hold on.